Hey, what's up, rock stars? It's Rox coming to you today with a review for Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 15, episode 11. So let's get to it, shall we? All right, you guys. So the show starts where it ended last week, which was with Drew being upset that her feelings were not being taken seriously. You guys remember she stormed off crying right after Kandi said, "and scene." And they told Sheree to go out there and check on her because she was so upset. Sheree kind of felt the same way that Kandi did, from what I could understand. She was just like, what is wrong with her? What is she crying about? They don't know, but go check and see. Sonia and Kenya also went out after her. And Drew is out there upset, crying, saying that, she's just tired, that people never take her feelings into consideration. And it's just always something, nobody stops to think about maybe she's going through some things. This lawsuit, even though I guess it sounds trivial to them, it's a lot. It's a lot for her. It's a lot for her family. And she's upset about it. Now, of course, nobody knows that this would affect Drew that way. When she told them that the person was suing for $1,000, it sounded like it would have been an easy fix. But we know, because they already told us, that Ralph and Drew are headed for a divorce. So we can probably assume that the reason why she is this emotional is not necessarily about the case, but just about everything else added in on top of the case. Okay, so while she's telling that to Kenya and Sonya's saying, I've never seen you this vulnerable. I understand what you're saying. And then Sheree comes out there and she says the same thing to Sheree. Now, first Sheree is just sort of like, girl, what is wrong with you? Why are you crying like $1,000? I just brought up the case, but so then she tells Sheree, and Sheree was just sort of like, okay, trying to understand. Kenya. Child. Kenya was like, after Drew had finally said all of these things and got the ladies that were out there to talk to her to understand what was going on, Kenya gonna say, how many ladies is with us on this trip? And Sonia was like, 8. And she was like, okay, what's 8 divided by 1,000? Because clearly this girl ain't got $1,000. I mean, she didn't say clearly she don't have 1,000, but it's just sort of like, she was just like, let's just pay this $1,000 so it can go away. But Drew was like, that's not the point. That is not what we talking about. Like, I'm sure Drew can muster up $1,000 if she really had to. She said they already paid the woman. That is so much more to this case that they don't understand. But when Kenya said that, it was like direct shade. She was just like, obviously the broke can't pay. So, it was cracking. Now, inside the restaurant, while all this is going on, they see Kandi get up, and Marlo and them were like, Kandi, you want to go check on Drew? And Kandi was just like, no, she's going to the bathroom. Okay, because Kandi still can't understand why this girl then stormed off crying. Now, Drew tells us in the confessional that she's also upset because when Ralph is away, like when she's away from Ralph, there's always this worry. And you shouldn't be like that as a wife. I mean, I can tell you that. I know shit happens in relationships and everything, but you should at least have enough, it should be enough trust in your relationship where you can go on vacation with your girls and not have to worry that he's messing around. So, it's bad right now, but it's been bad with Drew and Ralph the whole time, honestly. She said that he went to Vegas with the lady who was in charge of oiling him down for the video that Drew did. Remember, he ended up stepping in as the leading man, and he had to have a professional oiler downer, I guess. Like, he couldn't oil his own self down. Hell, you got a wife there. Why she couldn't oil you down? But anyway, this lady oiled him down. And then she invited him to try out for the Black Magic Mike, whatever the name of the thing, Chocolate City, I think it's called. And so, yeah, Drew is worried about that. Of course, she didn't tell the ladies that, but she told us that in the confessional. Okay. Anyway, once Sheree gets to understand what Drew is talking about, and they come to an understanding out there, they're able to get her to come back into the restaurant. And so anyway, the ladies are sitting around talking. The subject comes up that Kandi is never really around anymore. Kenya actually brings this up. I feel like they told Kenya to do this because Kandi is her girl, so she is not going to try to you know. But Kenya does bring up that Kandi's been so busy that, you know, she's never really around anymore. And Kandi gets it. She was like, yeah, I am busy. You're right. You know, she's burning the candle on both ends, but Kandi's been doing that for a long time. And Kandi's feeling is that just as easy as she got it, you know, she could lose it. I guess, you know, on her downtime between Escape, you know, when they weren't performing anymore and before she got on Real Housewives of Atlanta, you know, she was close to losing a lot. Because it was just sort of like things weren't happening the way that she needed it to. Or no, I think Kandi was able to stay comfortable, but she wasn't, of course, obviously where she is today. So she wants to be able to keep that. Plus, I'm sure she probably has a lot of people relying on her. She's not just taking care of her family per se, but all of her employees, all of her businesses, all of the things, you know, you have to keep all of that in mind when you are running this empire, that a lot of people are relying on you to keep the fire going, you know. So she gets it. Like, they invite her places, she can't go. She was like, hell, I wouldn't be inviting me to stuff either if I was them, because, you know, she can't do it. I'm really wondering how much longer Kandi is going to last on this show. Besides the fact that she's distracted, I think we all can agree that Kandi hasn't been 100% in this season. Okay, I'm talking about not physically, but just the job itself. It doesn't seem like she's really there. We see her, she participates, you know, when she can, but for the most part, it's just sort of like Kandi got to go here. Kandi got Escape to do. She got to go to Los Angeles to get these awards. She got to go to New York for the Broadway thing. She's got to do this. She's got, you know, Kandi is running around a lot, and she's juggling a lot of balls. So I don't know. You know, she may finally be to the point where she feels comfortable enough to let the Real Housewives of Atlanta check go. Okay. And I know that Kandi gets paid a pretty penny, so, you know, but it's starting to show that she can't do every single thing. So Kandi gonna have to figure out something, you know. So while they're talking, Sheree was just like, you know, how do you do it? Like, you just always on the go. And she was like, I really need to have my me time. And Kandi was like, oh no, I never get me time. And see, I mean, I would imagine CEOs and shit, they probably never get me time. That's why you have to, it takes a special person to even be that person. I guess an overachiever, they never really take time out for themselves. But, you know, so you have to have a special thick ass skin to do the shit that Kandi is doing. But yeah, when it comes to Kandi and Real Housewives of Atlanta, something has got to give. Now, the next day is their first full day in Portugal, okay? And it's raining, which is a bummer, but I guess it does rain. I don't know what time of the year this was. They probably have mentioned it, but I don't remember, you guys. But it's cold there. I don't know what the weather is usually like in Portugal, but it's kind of rainy and cold. From just looking at what the ladies are wearing. But anyway, they're getting ready for the day. We see the ladies start to gather downstairs before they start their day. They look like they meet down there somewhere between 10 and 10:30. Drew and Manetta are there first. You know, Manetta is asking Drew if she's okay, and she says yes. And then all the other ladies start to join. By 10:50, everybody is there except for Kenya. And apparently Kenya had come down earlier, but Marlo saw her and told her, like, girl, you need to go change. Like, what you you don't want to be walking around in Portugal looking like Drew. That's what he said. Child, I tell you. And then they showed Drew in her whole full denim outfit looking like a goddamn Fashion Nova model. You know how they put on the whole thing on sometimes. So anyway, all she needed was a cowboy hat that was denim, and she would have just been the whole shebang. Sonya comes down, and apparently the way Sonya was like, I'm gonna change in the car, they had already told Marlo or somebody had got to her and told her that she didn't look appropriate for the day either. I was surprised that Kenya, if that's really truly the reason why Kenya went back up to change, you know, that she was listening to Marlo or whatever. But anyway, so they're waiting on Kenya. Where is she? We are always waiting on Kenya. Okay. They call up to the room. Kenya doesn't answer. So Sheree was like, okay, we're going to go on and go. So they go on and get on the bus, and Sheree starts to tell them the itinerary for the day, what they're going to do, blopty blopty blue. Kenya finally gets herself together, and she's walking out, and I was like, that's what she changed into? I mean, what she had on before that couldn't have been, I mean, it wasn't nothing wrong with it, but it was like athleisure wear, and everybody is kind of like, I mean, they weren't really dressed, but she looked like she had on house shoes. I was like, girl, at least put you some damn tennis shoes on. Where you going with these flip-flops on? Okay, they were like the isotoner looking shoes, like the hotel house shoes that they give you, and the robe and the shoes, they're white, and you just slip your foot in, and it's just, So I was just like, it's raining. Where is your fucking shoes? As soon as she walks out the door, she slips and falls hard on her hip. And she's like, oh shit, even though we might look good, might look a little younger than our age, them bones is 50 something years old. So bitch, you hit that concrete hard like that shit is going to hurt. All right. And so she was like, oh shit, the ladies see her from the bus, and they were all like, oh man, is she okay? Is she okay? So Kandi gets out and checks on her, and a couple of others did too. And she's crying. Like, she said that shit hurt so bad that she could barely walk. Now, we also know that Kenya is an actress, but we'll give her the benefit of a doubt. That was a hard ass fall. So, yeah. And I'm sure nobody wants to spend their first day in Portugal in a fucking hospital. It's no fun to be in foreign hospitals. Not that it's any better or worse than the hospitals here, but if you're from the United States, you usually trust the United States doctors and stuff. And so that part is unnerving, as well as the fact that hold on one second, y'all. Thing is about to die. As well as the fact that, the language barrier, and you just know that ain't really the ideal situation, is to be in the hospital in a foreign country. So, no shade to Portugal. They may have amazing doctors, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, Kandi was just like, well, I'm gonna ride to the hospital with Kenya. This is my last day in Portugal. This is not how I planned it to go. I was just like, last day, nigga, you just got there yesterday. But that's an example of Kandi. She probably got some shit that she has to do. And fuck, what the hell you come for? You was sick on the plane the whole time. And then, this next day, I guess if it would have worked out, fine. But now you're going to be in the hospital with Kenya, and who knows how long. So Kenya's gone with Kandi to the hospital in the ambulance. And the rest of the ladies are on the bus, and they're about to get their day started. So what are the girls thinking about eating? Manietta was like seafood, and Sheree was like, yeah, I can always eat seafood. Okay. So it looks like the girls are going to the seafood market. So Courtney starts talking about, this being, in small cities, there's like usually a lot of culture and places that you can go and see. For example, she brings up the fact that when they went to South Carolina and Bolo was there that time, that, her grandmother lived right near them. That's actually where, in the area that she grew up in. Okay, a lot of culture there, obviously, too. Anyways, the fish market. So they get to the fish market, and they have a guide that's taking them around. And it's funny because was I detecting a French accent? Portugal, I would think, was a Spanish type accent, but he was just like, every little breeze seemed to whisper always. This right here is the red snapper, and we've got the catfish. That's my non-distinct over the seas accent. You could kind of tailor it a little bit to whichever country you want to say that it's from. But anyway, so the man is taking them around. It's more like a meat market. It's not just fish, even though they were looking at the fish. But once he lets them walk around on their own, about they see the damn rabbit, I was just like, ew, I'm gonna throw up. I do not want to see a skinned rabbit. Okay. And Marla was just like, look, he has a BBL. Like that. I was just like, who is looking at rat booties, you guys? Really? Then she gonna compare it to Kenya's ass. Just a mess. But anyway, the girls are walking around, soaking up local Laco collar. Shout out to Ricky Ricardo. And once they all get seated together, just kind of sitting, taking a break, they call Kandi. And Kandi was just like, we still waiting. Okay, she shows them a picture. Kenya is still laid out on her bed, but she's in the waiting room of the ER, and they have all the people lined up against the walls, and she looked like there's a whole bunch of fucking people in front of them. And the girls wanted to say without saying, like, bitch, we are Real Housewives of Atlanta. Okay, we got some pull. Why is it that you guys are in line? Why haven't you guys had the producers of some big names to go on and pull some cards and get you at the front of that line? Like, what the hell is going on? Okay, well, maybe Portugal don't give a damn that Kenya's a celebrity in the United States. Like, these people is sick. They need attending to, just like Kenya do. So wait the hell in line. But they was just sort of like, what is going on? Like, why are you guys still there? And Kandi is just looking like, we here. There ain't nothing else that they can do. Marlo was just like, Kandi need to stand up and do something about it. But Kandi, that's the problem with Kandi. She just blends in with everything. But she's not even really tall enough to see over anything. That Marlo was kind of making me laugh last night, you guys. But Marlo was like, ain't no way I'm standing up against no wall waiting in line to be seen. So yeah. Bravo. Why y'all got y'all girl just laid up out there like that? Anyways, they go on from the meat market type place, and they go to the restaurant. They're about to eat. It's on the beach. It's sort of rainy, it's still not like a clear day or whatever, but they sit out on the balcony, on the deck or whatever outside, but they have the things closed, so they're not in the elements. So the man that comes out to help him this time, before Marlo even said it, I was like, wow, he has a very nice voice. But you could tell the way that Marlo was looking at her. That bitch had hearts in her eyes. I was like, okay, so this is Marlo's type. She trying to throw us off the fucking scent with what's his name? Not Stokely. Why was I gonna call the man Stokely? What was his name? Was it Stokely? It wasn't Stokely. Anyway, I was like Scottley, I think it was. I was just, the way that she was looking, he was just like, well, we can use they have the wine. What do you guys want to drink? We have, And Sheree was like, oh, I heard so much about this green wine. And he was like, oh, the green wine. Oh, it's a good choice. It's a little sweet. Do you want to try the green wine? And they were like, yes. So anyway, when he walked off, Marlo was just like, his voice is so sexy. I was like, yeah, his voice was beautiful, but the voice and the rest of the package don't really match up. But honey, I almost felt like Marlo was ready to risk it all, y'all. Anyway, the man walks off, go get the wine, brings it back, pours them for them to drink and taste and all of that. Okay. Then Marlo was like, oh, did you guys want to see my pictures from my date? And they were like, sure, and then she's showing them the pictures of her and the old boy with the big roses that he gave her. And Sheree was just like, honey, Kenya said that this was a Tinder date. And they showed the flashback when I guess Sheree and Kenya was talking the day before, and Kenya said that, and Marlo was just like, surprisingly, she was just like, nope, it wasn't a Tinder date, it just was like, and I was just like so surprised that Marlo is on her best behavior. I don't really know what's going on, but Marlo has had quite a few times when, well, I won't say quite a few, but there were some things that Marlo could have been her typical Marlo self and gone off on Kenya, especially this situation here. Now they bring up Roy, and that was still felt like that was another thing that they was trying to do to poke the bear, trying to poke at Marlo. And Manetta said it was like you were trying to steal Kenya's shine, talking about you dating Roy. And Marlo was just like, no, that's not what it was at all. When she had just showed the phone around and she was like, I saw his face and I was like, oh my God, is that Roy? But no, she wasn't trying to do any more. And actually, Marlo didn't make a big deal out of that. The other girls were the ones that was laughing and sniggling and giggling about it, but Marlo didn't. And I told you guys I was surprised. So I'm not really sure what's happening here, because Marlo is plenty of times where I thought she could be extremely shady. She wasn't. Was she feeling sorry for Kenya falling? Maybe. I don't know, but no, she played that down. But, you know, Monyetta taking up for Kenya upset Sheree, or just, you know, Sheree was just annoyed, like rolling her eyes, like, I wish Monyetta would get her ass out of Kenya and Kandi's asses all the time. Like, she can't never think for herself. She with us, and she's still worried about her friends. I mean, those are her friends. Okay, those are her friends. So what do you want the girl to do? Then while they're there, Martel calls, and you know, Sheree has him on speakerphone, letting the ladies hear, and he was just like, It feels weird doing a Martel voice on this show. How long you gonna be there? And she was just like, no, he said, you gonna be there a few days, right? And she was just like, and he was just like, okay, because, you know, we don't normally let that much time go by without having sex. All the ladies are so tickled, you know. And Sonya was like, yeah, it's not a popular opinion, but I really like Martel for Sheree. And, you know, the other ladies are saying how much they, you know, think that this is cute, and they like Sheree with Martel. And I was just like, listen, if y'all like it, we love it, okay? I'm just saying Martel don't say the same things about her on his show, but that's another topic for another day. Anyways, Sheree brings up how she heard Kandi say and seen when Drew was walking out the door, okay? And, well, that upset Drew, because, again, she feels like the girls always, you know, they never take her feelings into consideration. So I was just like, oh, well, here we go. Remember I told you guys a long time ago that Drew doesn't know how to pick her battles? This is one of those situations. Even though I understand that she might feel the way that she feels, like you already got that situation settled with Sheree and all of them. But Drew still she's still going to feel like she needs to confront Kandi. And it's just sort of like, girl, I mean, you know Kandi, but you still want to address it. And it's just like, why can't you just assume that Kandi felt the same way that Sheree did? And now that you and Sheree had the conversation and Sheree understood things, you know, maybe now you could see why Sheree and Kandi felt the way that they did, and just let it go. But she, you know, when they tell Drew that, you can tell that that upset her. And they bring up the shit that happened at the winery, and she feels that about Marlo, and Marlo, you know, said that she apologizes to her about making her feel away, and then Drew tells her that she just needs her to be consistent, so Drew's not ready to let her off the hook. Now, while they're there, though, it was all still pretty calm. You know, they talked some things out and got past it, and then the sun came out. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. Ding, 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 ding. They, no fights. At the same time, we see Kandi and Kenya. They finally get out the hospital 7.5 hours later. Of course, they eating in the car, because I'm sure Kandi was hungry, because, you know, you have to feed Kandi. Okay, you just have to. And so, Kandi, you know, Kenya looks like she's good, not hurt. We don't see her on crutches, no cast, no nothing. So yeah, they got her all fixed up. Gave her a little pain medication, probably got some bruising or something, but other than that, she good. Now, back to the ladies. They go to another place, and it's a pottery type of place. You know, they get a little tour there. The ladies explain to them about the pottery, how it's made and painted and all that. And this is the time that we see Sheree's new face in the confessional. And I was just like, listen, I'm not saying that Sheree should or should not have had a nose job. You know, there are things about people, things about ourselves that we just hate. And we say, when we get enough money, we're going to get this changed. I've said that in the past, and I know a lot of other people that have said that in the past. Now that I've gotten to this age, well, I don't give a fuck anymore. You know, the Lord is going to get this face exactly the way he gave it to me when I make it up there to the gates, right? But, I mean, I'm not going to knock other people. I get it. There are things that you just want to change and all. To me, Sheree was a beautiful woman and did not need to have the work. You know, she was a testament to people that don't get work to their bodies and faces. Because other than maybe some few little tweaks that Sheree may have done, you know, we look at her as a natural shaped and faced woman. But this nose job in the middle of her having to film her confessionals, not during the season, it doesn't look like, but the confessionals, that face is still very, very swollen, and it doesn't look like you should be on camera. Okay, one of my best friends got a nose job back in early 2000s, and we laugh about it today because I remember after she got it and I was talking to her on the phone, and she was just like, yeah, my face is a little swollen, but yeah, it's coming along good and all. And I was like, okay girl, I'm gonna come by and see you. And she opened the door and I was like, oh my I was like, oh my God. I was like, and she was like, what? I was like, no, you're not a little swollen. Like your face, you know, no. And she was just like, is it that bad? I was like, girl, your face looks, you don't even look like yourself. Like you've been out in public. How about she hadn't been in a fashion show? I was like, girl, she showed me the pictures, and now we still laugh at the pictures because now we look back at the pictures and literally her face was huge, her nose was little, it was all, and she had the nerve to have on this denim outfit, this denim apple cap. She looked crazy. I was just like, oh my God, your face, you look wild. Like, no, you do not look like you should be out in public like this. And she had no clue. So I was just like, maybe Sheree feels like that as well, because when they showed her in that confessional, I was like, okay, why she couldn't wait until all this was done? I'm not saying you shouldn't have got it done, even though I didn't think you need to, but that's your own fucking face. If you want to change it, fine. But why you do this in the middle of the season? Girl, you could have bust fresh on season 16, you know, and showed us your face then when it was all settled and back in place, like what they did with Riley. We didn't see Riley when she was swollen. They waited, you know? So it was just sort of like, I was so distracted by her face, I don't even know really what was going on in there. But the good thing about this group, you know, Marlo brings up a point that whenever Kenya and Kandi are not around, everybody else gets along. Okay. Well, that's because the targets, the usual targets, are no longer there. So that's the reason why. But you know, people have bullets on their backs. They are the faves of the show. They've been there the longest at this point. So that's why, you know, when you guys see them, then you guys feel that you have to press and poke at them and all. So that's probably why you ain't got what you gonna poke and press at Drew for? Nobody cares, you know, not like that, but like that, you know. So that is why. So then Manetta and Sonia, when we saw it in the previews for the show, remember, we thought they was truly fighting, but now we find out that they were just playing and just mocking a fight because that's what everybody is used to, and everybody gets a good laugh about it. They stand up, they arguing and all of this, but they not serious. Okay, that's why I said you can't always trust these trailers, because you might see something in this. If they don't show, if they do show it, because sometimes they don't even show the shit that they did in those trailers, but if they do show it, it might be something totally different than what we was expecting. But Sheree says they're going to go back to the room now that Kenya and Kandi, to the hotel now that Kenya and Kandi are back, and she's going to have a slumber party. This is Kandi's last night, so they're going to all get together in the room and, you know, have a good time. So, you know, once they get back, everybody gets changed and comfortable, and they all go down to Sheree's room, and then Kandi also joins them there. Where's Kenya? Well, Kenya not feeling well, probably pumped up with some medication, so she going to sleep this one out. She'll see everybody tomorrow. So Kandi is there, but Kandi looks exhausted. Like, Kandi looks tired, okay? But you know she has a job to do, so she's there. But I can see it in her face and the way she's moving. Like, Kandi needs to sit down and rest somewhere. They asked her how the hospital was, and Kandi was like, that shit was like The Walking Dead. I mean, everybody was sick and looking miserable. I mean, you at the ER, so what you expect, you know? But you know, they got Kenya all together and fixed up and stuff. She got some good meds. Now Kandi is leaving tomorrow, and so we got to get this confrontation from Drew now, you know. So then Drew says, well, Kandi, was brought to my attention that when you left out the room, when I left out of the restaurant, you know, you said "and seen," and Kandi was like, yeah, I did say it. And she was just like, but why would you say that? Because this was very something I was going through and all. And Kandi was just like, because Drew, honestly, you have faced way tougher confrontations from these girls. Like, I couldn't understand why you was crying, because I mean, it's been plenty, and it's true. Drew, they have done way worse to Drew. And so Kandi was just like, so the fact that you was crying over this little bitty something, like, she couldn't understand what the problem was. But, you know, Drew was then saying, did it occur to you that maybe I'm dealing with something else? Maybe I'm going through something else. Well, the lady's only gonna go by what you tell them. So no, it didn't occur to Kandi. So Kandi was just like, okay, well, no, I didn't know that, and I'm sorry. It was a joke, but maybe it was a bad joke, and okay, I apologize. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. Okay, she wasn't trying to drag her. So then that's that. We've got past that. Then they bring up Sonya and her sister, and, you know, Sonya gets emotional and says that it's just hard for her because the dynamics in her family are changing some, and she wants to hold on to the old dynamics, but it's clear that it's not really working the way that it was. And just basically her sister and them are going to have to move, and she's feeling like, you know, she doesn't want them to move, and they don't want to move, but it looks like Ross is ready for him to go. Drew, how's everything going with dropping it with Drew? Drew says it's good. So now we're talking about the businesses. Sheree was like, I ain't seen none of you ladies order anything from She by Sheree. And Honey Marlo was just like, I ain't seen nobody at Le Archives either. And Sonya was like, and ain't nobody did nothing for Mommy Nation either. And Sheree was like, excuse me, I gave $5,000 to Mommy Nation, or Mommy and Me. What was the name of the thing? Is it Mommy Nation? And I was just like, well, that's because Kenya forced you to. Okay, but okay, you did give the $5,000. We'll give you that. And the ladies was like, listen, Sheree, we want to support, but can you have the site up? Well, she was like, the site is up. So, you know, they go on the site and, you know, go on and order a little hat t-shirt combo or something, make a girl happy. But so it was uneventful while the cameras were there. But then when it wraps, you know how Bravo is good for doing this. They'll tell somebody or tell them to make sure that, you know, if it look like it's gonna be some juicy shit, to get it on your cameras, your camera phones. And so later on, after midnight, you know, the ladies are sitting around still talking and whatever, and Kandi and them are talking about the fact that Drew had kissed LaToya when they were all out, and they had that big ass like orgy in South Carolina, remember, with the stripper and all that. And Drew is adamant that she never kissed LaToya. And, you know, they were just like, what are you talking about? Even LaToya said it on the reunion that you guys kissed. And Drew was like, no, I didn't. Drew is one of those people that will lie with a straight ass face, because Drew is like, nigga, if you ain't got it on camera, it didn't happen. Okay? And Kandi was just like, saw it with my own eyes. And Drew is still like, nope, I don't blame her. Shit, Drew was like, unless you can prove it, she is going to stick to her answer that no, she did not. I was just like, they were so fucked up that night that Drew honestly might not even remember. I don't really believe that, but we can give her that, because yeah, sometimes you do be blackout drunk, and child, you be doing all kind of stuff, and then they get to calling you the next day, and girl, you did this and you did that and you said this and you said that, and you just be like, what? Nigga, you don't remember nothing after about 9:30 at night. You was like, what time was this? 3 in the morning. Why the fuck was I still up with y'all? You know? So maybe Drew doesn't remember, even though I don't believe that. And then Bravo jumps forward 3 months later. I don't know if that's where we're going to be on the next episode, but Bravo shows 3 months later, Ralph and Drew have both filed for divorce. So I don't know. I guess we'll see next week. But child, when they asked Marlo, did she believe Drew? Well, Marlo was there too, and Marlo said that she did see it. You know, Marlo was just like, well, I believe about 80% that Drew did kiss LaToya. And they were like, well, what about the other 20%? And Marlo was just like, well, you know, I don't know. Drew keeps saying she didn't, and you know, she lies so much and so good. You know, it's tricking, it's confusing me. I was just like, honey, it was a lot going on that night. I truly do believe that Drew and LaToya did kiss. But honey, Drew said, baby, if you can't produce it on the screen somewhere, it didn't happen. I ain't mad. Make sure that you rate, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm itsrox. The channel is itsrox, and everything else I do will be in the bottom bar. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Till next time, rock stars. Bye.